Due to Deon O'Banion betraying the fragile trust between the North and South Side gangs in Chicago during Prohibition, a bitter rivalry followed with many men losing their lives over the conflict. After the St. Valentine's Day massacre, the Irish gang was left in shambles. It was a cold morning in Chicago on St. Valentine's Day in 1929, and the Irish mob had just been shot to pieces. 7 men died in a garage that day, thinking they were being busted by the police for bootlegging. Instead, it was 2 of what is widely believed to be Al Capone's men dressed in police uniform that pumped them full of bullets. The deaths of these men was the climax of the drama and conflict between the North Side Irish mob and the South Side Italian outfit. In the time of Prohibition in Chicago, the Irish were steadily climbing the ladder of infamy, while the Italians were immigrating from Italy to New York, then Chicago. Having already established territory as well as dirty politicians in the late 1800s, the Irish had a reputable gang, including Polish and French members. George Bugs Moran was a childhood friend of Deon O'Banion, whose betrayal to Johnny Torrio, the outfit leader, sparked the civil war of booze in the city. O'Banion was born in the tiny town of Aurora, Illinois in 1892 to Irish immigrant parents. The family later moved to Aurora, Illinois, where O'Banion was raised Roman Catholic. When O'Banion was 9 years old, his mother died of tuberculosis, causing his father to move him and his brothers to Little Hell in Chicago, known as Goose Island today. Serving as an altar boy at the Catholic Holy Name Cathedral and receiving his schooling at the Holy Name Parochial School did little to stop the young O'Banion from becoming a thug. Through being a member of the Little Hell Gang, the youth part of the Market Streeters Gang, O'Banion met Earl Hymie Weiss, Vincent the Schemer Juicy, and George Bugs Moran. These 4 would stay lifelong friends and together started the North Side Gang. O'Banion was arrested for the first time in 1909 for stealing postage stamps. He served a 3-month sentence in a correction house for his crime, but would later be sent to prison for a short time in 1911 for assaulting someone with a blackjack. These sentences were the only ones he would serve. In 1920, Prohibition started, and O'Banion wasted no time making deals with whiskey and gin distributors, as well as arrangements for alcohol to be brought across the border from Canada. A year later, O'Banion married Viola Caniff, who said he was a caring husband that would always tell her where he was going when leaving home. In an effort to get a legitimate job, O'Banion started a floral shop, although this may have just been a facade for the bootlegging. On December 19, 1921, O'Banion completed the first hijacking of liquor from a whiskey truck. When the truck stopped at a stop sign, O'Banion leaped into the truck and pushed the driver out. After driving the truck to a garage, he made some phone calls, and within 20 minutes, every drop had been sold. It was soon after this that O'Banion was approached by Torrio to join the crime syndicate, which meant the North Side and other gangs would host more respect for each other and, in some cases, share profits. O'Banion's fatal flaw was perhaps that he was so untrusting of the rival gangs that he was in partnership with. This paranoia is what caused the Italian and Irish gang to paint the city red. O'Banion was worried the outfit was conspiring against him. Because of this, he told Torrio he wanted to sell the Sabian brewery that O'Banion knew would be raided by the police. Torrio agreed to the asking price of $500,000 and was arrested when the law came, just like O'Banion knew they would. Insulted and swindled out of $500,000, the Italians became bitter with the North Side Gang. This very act that O'Banion believed would protect him signed his death warrant. On November 3, 1924, the mob bosses of Chicago had a meeting. Despite Capone's suggestion to sweep the Jennas losing money under the rug, O'Banion called Angelo Jenna and told him to have the money by the end of the week. Having successfully angered the other gangs, O'Banion had less than a week to live. On November 10, 1924, O'Banion was snipping chrysanthemums in the back of his flower shop for what he believed was a well-paying funeral. Louis Altari, his bodyguard, was hungover that day and didn't come in. Shot by Capone's men, the beloved O'Banion was dead. Denying any part in the scheme, Al Capone was on vacation in Florida, although he did send a sizable bouquet to O'Banion's funeral, to which more people than living memory could recall attended. The death of O'Banion left the Irish devastated but angry as well. In retaliation, Weiss, who was the new leader of the North Side, Moran, and Drusi shot Torrio's car in January 1925. Weiss was seconds from firing would have been the fatal shot to Torrio's head, but the Irish mob left the scene so they wouldn't be spotted. Unsurprisingly enough, Torrio handed over control of the outfit to Capone after this event, fearing for his life. After the death of O'Banion, the war between the gangs reached its peak. In September of 1926, the North Side planned an attack where they drove 6 cars past the Hawthorne Hotel, where they knew Capone and his gang were eating. Frank Gussenberg jumped out of the 5th car and used his 100-round Tommy gun in an attempt to finally kill Capone. Despite these efforts, the North Side failed to kill Capone. October would bring the death of Weiss, who was attacked by two of Capone's men with a machine gun. In a terrible twist of events, after Weiss had fallen from his fatal hit by the Southsiders, his own bodyguard got confused and shot him as well. 1926 rolled to an end, the Northside Gang having lost two beloved leaders. In 1927, Moran took control of the Northside Gang and would rule with Drusy by his side until his tragic death by police in April. Further pushing themselves under Capone's skin, the Northside joined with Capone's rival, Joe Elio. Together, the death of Antonio Lombardo and Pasqualiano Lorado was accomplished. This partnership did not end well for Elio, who was shot with 59 bullets in October of 1930, supposedly by Frank Nitti from the South Side. Jack McGurn and Capone worked together after the deaths of Lombardo and Lorado for revenge and to finally kill Moran. It was McGurn's idea to have the mobsters dress as police for the planned hit, which worked quite well for the South Side. McGurn even stole a police car and the uniforms to execute the hit as perfectly as possible. On February 13th, McGurn made arrangements with one of the booze hijackers of the area to tell Moran that there was a shipment of old log cabin whiskey that the North Side could buy dirt cheap for $57 a case. The day that the outfit hoped would be Moran's last was still successful in taking down 7 Northside members. However, confusion due to Northside member Albert Weinshank looking so much like Moran inadvertently saved Moran's life. Moran was running late for the supposed booze shipment meeting on St. Valentine's Day, and after seeing the police cars outside, quickly left. The lone survivor of the massacre was Highball, the German Shepherd belonging to John May the mechanic, and one of the 7 who was shot. Highball was later put down as a traumatic event had destroyed him. Despite it being common knowledge that Capone was behind the massacre, no one was ever tried for the murders, and the bitter blood feud between the gangs slowed to a halt. Capone would later be famously jailed for tax evasion in 1931, and soon after, his health was what killed the infamous mobster. 1932 brought the reign of Frank Nitti as outfit leader, but most would argue that Paul Ricca was truly the boss. His top men having been shot in the St. Valentine's Day massacre made Moran lose most of his power in the 1930s, and the 1940s brought little yield to their gang. On February 15th, 1936, McGurn was killed by 3 men with machine guns. Having happened just a day after the 7th anniversary of the St. Valentine's Day massacre, it is widely thought that Moran was behind it. In 1957, Moran died from lung cancer with just $100. O'Banion's actions that he believed would help his gang to flourish ultimately led to the demise of the Irish gang in Chicago.